Hello there, and welcome back to Gaulia. So, I know I said I was going to retire my creative world, but it made me kind of pop into it, and then I started building again. I can't help myself. One of the things I want to talk about is this right here. I don't know if you remember way back when in an early episode, we did a lore segment, and we had a ranger who was checking out this park, was attacked by some zombies. It's still one of my favorite of the lore segments. As part of the collapse sections anyway of the lore segments. And I was thinking for a long time that I wanted to have some kind of a police station or headquarters in our city. And I wanted to take inspiration from this vehicle. So our police force in that movie, he was what we called the Ranger. So I'm actually going to make our police force is going to be the Rangers. It's going to be confusing because now there's just yet another R in this world. So you got Redstone Energy Dynamics, you got the Rangers. At some point somebody asked me if my building was for Team Rocket. So it's not, but apparently R is going to get used a lot. But before we do that, I guess I'll build what is now the second to last build that this creative world is going to give us before we switch over to a new edition of the creative world. So stay tuned on the other side of the intro. We'll put that build together, and then I'd like to talk about my creative process and how building works for me using the creative world and tools like Lightmatica and Axiom. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the build. Here we are back in the creative world. You can actually see it nestled in right where it belongs. And here is what I'm working on now. So like I said, I wanted some kind of headquarters for our rangers. And I wanted to make it something like a realistic, maybe police station. Like I said, I draw some influence from like brutalist style architecture, a lot of concrete. I'm using tuff in this city a lot because I just think it blends in well together. So I think this build over here and this build are going to have some commonalities. And I'll take you through this is the side I'm working on right now. So the very first thing I do when I'm building these builds is I'm not great with Axiom, but you can pop in here and you can just throw down some shapes, right? So like, let's say I want a solid, I want a cube. You can separate your width, heights, things like that, and you can just plop it down. And essentially, I just build a rough outline of shapes until it gets me something that I can start layering on. So this was actually originally a cube down here, a cube up here, a smaller, I should say, rectangle or cuboid, and a smaller one in between. And then I knew I wanted some kind of like layering like this, so I built out these sides to flare in and flare out. Flare out on, as you go up, and flare out as you go down. And I've just been kind of working it. And I always build my initial structures or shapes out of some form of very colorful concrete or very colorful wool, so I know exactly what I need to replace. The next step that I did was replace them with more, whatever like the tone of the build is, like in this case, this grayish kind of tone. I'll build everything out with that. Like I knew my detailing was going to be tough, but I wanted some kind of a grayish tone. And then that's kind of when I really start doing a lot of the shaping. Like I'm working on these windows right here. You know, remember we were drawing inspiration from that Ranger vehicle. Actually, I made a little Sallyport area, and I put 2 more Ranger vehicles here. So I knew these were tough builds. I even went as far as they had the little blast furnace engine. They had the lapis. So I figured the gray and the blue, the tough and the blue color was... What the heck is going on? That was weird. Get rid of the thunder. You know, I knew that I wanted to use some kind of a blue color, so my glass is going to be blue, and then I'm using actually the lapis block and the engine block along here to really like just link the two together. I don't know, like have some consistency. So, like I said, this was all flat. Actually, if you look at this wall section over here, this is what I was just looking at. Then I go in and I do something like this. I put all my windows in, start putting details in. And then what I'm trying to do with this build, which I haven't done with a lot of the other ones, is work on texturing. I actually started off my morning today watching Flip's live stream, and he's working on like a cyberpunk city in his nether hub. And I was like, you know what? I don't do this. I should. It makes building these buildings much more painstaking and frustrating, but because you need so much stuff. You need so much stuff in your inventory, but I think that's going to be just a super nice, I think it brings it to the next level. Like, I'm looking at this and it looks so good, right? Like, I look back at this and I'm like, I put, like one piece of wool. It just looks like trash compared to that. So, I did a little bit of it over here, and I really do like the way these came out. With the tough peppering in this for wear and peppering in like stair pieces for make it falling apart, the little brick sections. So it's not completely unfamiliar to me, did a tiny bit of it over here. But this is probably the largest scale I've been working on it. Here's the problem though, right? I have never found some of these blocks yet in survival. So it's not really a problem. It'll force me to go exploring. But I don't have coral. Especially, I don't even think I have a warm ocean anywhere nearby. Deep cold. So this is going to push us out to find a warm ocean, which will be cool. It'll be a good, probably little addition to the episode. But I thought, people might like to see kind of what goes into building a build like this, and how that looks, how that works. As of now, I don't have any real idea. I don't really have any idea what I'm doing along the sides down here. I don't even know if I want to cut the mountain back. But that's a decision I don't have to make right now. That's another part that I like about Minecraft, is that I can just do something that I think looks cool and worry about what I do next later. So one of the things that makes, I think, building in this urban, modern kind of style conducive to things like Axiom and building in creative is most of these buildings are somewhat symmetrical along at least one axis. So, even like take the row house, right? Like it's not symmetrical this way, but it's mostly symmetrical along this axis. And then you can detail the roof, you can detail the bottom, but for the most part, you know, these are shapes that are symmetrical. This even is symmetrical if you split it up this way, right? It is definitely not symmetrical this way. So it creates some ability. So I'm going to do, like, for example, I did a bunch of work on this side, bring in these blocks, blah, 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 right? And then a lot of it could just copy and paste right over here. And that's kind of what I'm going to do over here is, okay, go through here and say, like, you know, I even already have most of my color palette decided. And then I can just start putting in those blocks that make this look the way I want it to look, and then copy it to the other side. A lot of what I'm doing here is putting the lighter blocks in first up on the top area and moving to the darker blocks as we move down below for, you know, some kind of shading. So like now, I think this is starting to look better. You know, especially if you look at anything up close, it doesn't always look great, but you gotta take a little step back, and I think that's where we want it. So then at that point, I can just come in here and I can say, I'm going to copy all this. And this is what's like crazy about Axiom and these other mods, if you ask me, is that first I got to make sure I'm not, okay, so that's not going to overlap anything there. I just select this whole area and then bring it over here. And then I can flip it. And boom. Isn't that kind of crazy? And I'll figure out what kind of door to put in here. But I don't have to redo all that, right? Like, and because, oh, let's see, I forgot what about here. Yep, there it is. See? Because I did all that on the one side and then I'm kind of replacing it on the other, I don't feel like it's going to look that bad because you're never going to see the sides next to each other to realize that this is an exact copy of that pattern over there, right? Like, that's kind of what I'm trying to avoid, right? Is like, I don't want to take unnecessary time to individually do everything, get something that looks good, port it to the other side. You're never going to know that it is an exact copy unless you're looking directly at it. Like, or watching me do this, I guess. So I'm going to keep working on this, and we'll probably bring this in at the end of the episode as a nice little time lapse so you can see kind of how it went from the creative process into the survival world. Now, keep in mind, if you decide, hey, I want to use things like Axiom or even just building in creative in general to plan out your survival world, it is very easy to say, oh, I really like this particular block as a block, right? Whatever, you insert random block. And then go back into your survival world and realize, oh man, I need 150, you know, frog lights or something, and you don't have a frog light for me. So it's just something that you can easily get carried away. Even for this build, I had used the, what do you call those things? I had used sea lanterns in some of it, and I didn't even use sea lanterns for anything that you can see the sea lantern. I just was like, oh, when I threw in, it's hard to see now, but like the lighting blocks behind, these areas here, which we're just using to kind of illuminate windows at nighttime. And then, well, I don't have a guardian farm, and the temple only has so many sea lanterns in it. So like, just keep it in mind. You can kind of get block happy in creative mode, and then go into survival mode, and you have to pay a serious time price or decide to use a different block. So I'm trying to be cognizant of that. Even the tuff that I'm using in these builds, I know that that's going to involve a whole bunch of time down in my beacon mine over, under there, mining at the deep slate levels for a bunch of tuff. The nice thing about the deep slate is all my roads are made out of deep slate, and you can kind of see where we're going to be going with our next road segment. We're going to have this nice little split off here. But yeah, I think that's we're starting off well here. You got the R for the Rangers, or Team Rocket if you prefer, I guess. I think we're starting off well here, and I'll finish the creative mode up and bring you guys into the survival world towards the end of the episode to build that in a nice time lapse. So, in other news, number one, we updated. I don't know if I've said that yet, but we did update our world. So, I haven't really done much with it, but if you saw, we had some shelves in that last build. And number two, I built a sheep farm. I said I was going to use this factory for something, and originally I was thinking moss or concrete, but my son plays, and he wants me to build one of his builds into this world. He saw me adding other people's builds, and he asked if I could add one of his. What type of terrible father would I be if I said no? So he built a plane entirely out of wool, so I needed a sheep farm, and at some point we'll add that plane to this world. It was a real basic sheep farm. It's basically, back here you have a hopper minecart underneath the grass block with a hopper underneath it pulling the wool into the chest. I already probably have enough wool to last me for his entire build plus, as I cleaned all this out recently. But it's pretty effective. Slowly these things will lose durability, but for the most part, this is just like my iron farm running in the background. And I'm not sure how farming mechanics work, because I updated it, I believe spawn chunks are no longer a thing. So I added a chunk loader, if you will, with the ender pearl stasis chamber to keep my iron farm going. And I don't know if my sheep farm benefits from that or not. I also feel like my iron farm has lost productivity. Like, I don't know. I think it's time to go on an adventure. Let's go find ourselves a warm ocean, if you will. Maybe bring a couple extra shulkers with us. Get all nice and prepared. I have no idea how long we're going to be going for, so it could be a while. So if you pull up our map, which, by the way, the more builds you add to this, the more this reminds me of the original SimCity with like that top-down view. But if you pull up our map, our desert was over there, so we actually could just go through the nether and hit this warm ocean. Let's fly. We might hit the nether on the way back, but I kind of want to just see, we'll try to take like a slightly unexplored course here for some of this. Just see what's out there. That's interesting. It's a nether portal with no nether portal. Oh, look at that. A mansion. I was kind of hoping for a pillager outpost along the way. I was like collecting the horns. Oh, some Highland cows. I don't know that I've ever actually run into these yet. Maybe I did. I don't remember. I should bring some of them back to our starting area. And there's some coral. Does anybody else feel like when you're destroying things like this in Minecraft, like, do you feel guilty about it? I don't know why, but I kind of do. Maybe because I would never do this in real life. Like, destroy a coral reef. This just feels so wrong. I actually feel more guilty about destroying this coral reef than when I go on a squid murdering rampage. Weird. Okay, so we're back from the ocean with our coral in tow, and I have all the materials I need to build our next build. It's gonna go right over here. I flattened most of what we need, and we can, do some terraforming later on once it's in place and all done. But while I was prepping for the build, my son asked if he could import a build into the world from, something that he made. I think he saw me putting some of the other YouTubers' builds in here, and he wanted to build in here as well. So he made a plane out of wool, and we'll check that out before we get to building here.
So this is my plane, and I built it in my creative world, which that's my first world. That's my first building that I've built from my dad so far, and I'm gonna build more. So I built my plane out of wool.
And what did we have to do in this world to get enough wool?
Oh, a sheep farm.
Yeah, because you can use all the blocks in creative, but then we got to find them in survival, right?
Mhm.
How do you think your plane fits into the world?
It fits pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. Looks like it's flying right over the city, right?
Yep.
Do you like the city so far?
Yeah.
All right. Are you going to build another build for the world?
Yep.
What are you going to build next?
A cloud city up in the sky.
A cloud city. Wow. Yeah, some of the building that we've done has actually been inspired by the creative worlds Lucas and I have played in together. So this building here came out of one of our creative worlds. We called it the Lucas Fancy Hotel, and this building here was also built up in that world. And actually, the initial concept for these row homes came out of that world as well. So a lot of what I've been trying to do with the city is incorporate builds from worlds that I play in with Lucas, other people's builds, and some of the stuff like this one, which I built in here with Axiom, and these as well. So let's get to the police headquarters. I'm pretty excited about this build. It's one of the most detailed builds I think I'm going to build so far, outside of maybe this tower here. And I built up a helicopter for it. So check out the time lapse. Okay, well, here it is. And I think this may be one of my favorite builds yet, but I also have, recency bias going on. I'll take you up top. We'll talk a little bit about this helicopter because I made this and I kind of like it. Up close, obviously it's Minecraft, everything starts to break down, but I managed to make it 3 blocks wide thanks to the trapdoors, adding a little bit of extra dimension to it, and without having to make it super big, I think it looks pretty good. Sitting right on top our little Ranger HQ. I'm really enjoying adding like variation to the tops of these buildings, like ventilation and whatever doohickeys. But the helicopter I thought was a super nice addition, something unique. Now you have like a water tower, helicopter, a glass dome, some kind of radio antenna. So a lot of these buildings are getting more, personality as they go on, and I think work on my craft of building these things. And then the building itself isn't necessarily, oh, oh God, furnished inside, but it is traversable. Um, maybe I'll do more work on it one day. I did work on the downstairs just a little bit for our Sally port area, where I apparently forgot to put glass in these things, but our 2 Ranger squad cars, the gate that could come down, and then if you were unloading your prisoner or whatnot, you could come in here. There's some cells, a little check-in area. I had a little painting up there, but I just haven't put it up yet. And a nice little area. I would probably put like a wall here to separate this out, and then down here would be like offices, locker rooms, that type of stuff. But didn't really do much there. I did, however, make this entryway with this double door, which has a switch on the other side, so somebody in this area here would buzz you in or buzz you out. If you wanted to conduct business, make a report, you can come here. So yeah, a little bit of interior work, but not a ton. But overall, I mean, this thing just has a lot of character, I think. A lot of depth to it, which I think is nice. When you're coming in, it just really is starting to, like, this section here is really starting to feel like a good block. This section here is really starting to feel like a good block. And I'm loving the way this is coming together. I'm pretty happy with this right now. So let me know what you guys think about this one. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you as always, and we'll see you in the next episode.